At the age of 12, my life changed forever. My family left behind the sun-soaked landscapes of Kenya and resettled in Canada, a country that at first felt both dazzling and overwhelming. Everything was new: the snow that blanketed the streets in winter, the unfamiliar rhythms of daily life, and the rich mix of cultures that made up our community. My father, who had found success as a businessman, ensured that we lived comfortably. That stability gave me a chance to adapt, to explore this vibrant new world without fear of scarcity. Slowly, I began to feel at home. High school became a place of discovery. It was there I met Russell, the boy who would eventually become my husband. At first, our friendship was casual, filled with laughter over homework and silly teenage jokes. Over time, it grew into something deeper. Our relationship was not perfect. Like any young couple, we stumbled, argued, and patched things up. But what always set Russell apart was his unwavering loyalty and kindness. By the time I turned 22, we both knew marriage was our next step. I felt overjoyed, imagining a future filled with love, family, and endless possibility. But not everyone shared my joy. Standing firmly in the way of our happiness was Doris, Russell's mother. From the moment she heard about our plans to marry, she bristled with disapproval. Her opposition wasn't subtle. She often voiced her doubts in a way that made me feel singled out, unwelcome. Though she never outright admitted it, I couldn't shake the sense that part of her resistance stemmed from my Kenyan heritage. Russell, to his credit, never faltered. He valued me for who I was, not where I came from. He reassured me constantly that his love for me was stronger than his mother's prejudice. Yet even his steady support could not fully erase the sting of Doris's words. Our wedding day was bittersweet. I stood at the altar, radiant with joy as I vowed my love to Russell, yet aware of the shadow cast by Doris's presence. Her scowls and cold stares were like thorns pressing into my happiness. Still, I focused on Russell, on the promises we made to one another, determined not to let her bitterness ruin our day. But marriage didn't soften her. If anything, Doris's disdain sharpened. She often made cutting remarks about my culture, disguised as jokes or just her opinion. I tried to brush them off, hoping time would soften her heart. Instead, the opposite happened. Her jabs became more frequent, more pointed, and with every one, my patience thinned. Russell tried to mediate, torn between the two women he loved most. He promised to speak to her, but the tension remained. Eventually, the weight of her constant hostility pressed too heavily on me. I reached my breaking point. One evening, after yet another cruel remark, something inside me snapped. For the first time, I raised my voice at Doris. Enough, Doris. I am tired of your endless digs and the way you treat me like an outsider. I deserve respect. She blinked at me, clearly taken aback. Oh, come now. I'm just sharing my opinions. You're being far too sensitive. No, this isn't sensitivity. This is about dignity. I am your son's wife. I am part of this family, and I will not be belittled any longer. What followed was a heated argument that laid bare everything I had kept bottled up. Doris insisted I wasn't fitting in, that perhaps Russell would have been better off with someone from a more traditional background. I stood my ground, refusing to let her prejudice define me. In the end, she coldly suggested we keep our distance. For once, I agreed. When I told Russell what had happened, I braced myself for disappointment. Instead, he astonished me with his unwavering support. He confronted his mother directly, telling her that if she couldn't respect me, she risked losing him as well. Doris's response was shocking. She threatened to disown him. It was a heartbreaking moment for Russell, but also an awakening. He realized that his mother's approval came at too high a cost. Together, we decided we didn't need toxic influences in our lives, even if they came from family. Months passed. Doris carried through on her threat, cutting ties. Russell missed her deeply, but I knew that supporting him through the pain was part of my role as his partner. I even hoped, naively perhaps, that someday reconciliation might be possible. So one evening, I arranged a dinner at Russell's favorite restaurant, hoping to lift his spirits, but fate had other plans. When we arrived, the maitre d' gave me a confused look before informing me that my name was on the blacklist. Bewildered, I asked to speak to the manager. To my utter shock, the manager stepped forward, and it was Doris. In the months she had spent estranged from us, She had poured her energy into expanding her business ventures, eventually taking control of this very restaurant, our favorite dining spot. The coincidence felt too cruel to be accidental. Standing there in the lobby, Doris smirked at us. Well, look who decided to show up at my restaurant. Did you really think you'd be welcome here? Russell's face turned red with fury as voices rose, drawing the attention of other diners. I tried to keep the peace, but Doris's smugness only stoked the fire. She accused me of ruining Russell's life, of tearing him away from his real family. Russell finally shouted back, "Mom, enough. This isn't about tradition or culture. This is about your inability to accept the woman I love." The standoff escalated in the middle of the crowded restaurant, with diners whispering and staring, and in that moment, I realized something profound. Doris wasn't simply disapproving, she was determined to sabotage our happiness at every turn. "I decided to safeguard my business from your poor choices," Doris declared coldly, her eyes narrowing as if each word was a blade meant to wound. Russell's jaw tightened, disbelief and fury boiling in his voice. "You're sick, Mom. It's disgusting that you're doing this on purpose just to spite us." She smirked, brushing his pain aside as if it were nothing. "Oh, please, Russell, don't be so dramatic. I'm simply protecting my reputation. I can't have people like you dragging down my business." My heart ached as I watched Russell flinch at her words. "This is ridiculous, Mom. You're choosing your bigotry over your own son. I thought you were better than this," he said, his voice breaking under the weight of betrayal. Doris's reply was sharp as a whip. "You're the one who chose this path, Russell. Don't blame me for the consequences of your decisions." By now, the entire restaurant had gone silent. Forks hovered above plates, conversations ceased, and dozens of eyes locked on us. The shame of being paraded before strangers under Doris's cruelty pressed down on me. It was unbearable. "Let's just leave, Russell," I whispered, tugging his sleeve. "Arguing with her won't change her mind." His shoulders slumped in defeat. "You're right, Janice. It's not worth it." But Doris wasn't done. "And don't come back," she called out, venom dripping from her voice. "No one here wants you." Gasps rippled through the dining room, but she didn't care. With humiliation burning in our veins, Russell and I stepped out of Applebee's, once his sanctuary, now turned into a weapon against him. We walked aimlessly down the street, the glow of neon lights casting long shadows on the pavement. Russell's silence was heavy, and I knew he was carrying more than anger. "Talk to me," I urged softly. "Let it all out, Russell. I know Applebee's meant more to you than just food and tables." His eyes glistened with unshed tears. "Applebee's, that's where Dad and I bonded. Every Friday night, we'd sit by the window, order the same meals, and just talk. It was our place, our tradition. It's where I felt closest to him, and now Mom's ruined that too." My chest tightened. She knew how special it was to you, and still, she twisted it into a way to hurt us. That's beyond cruel. Russell's voice cracked. "It's so unfair. She'll never understand what she's destroyed." I squeezed his hand. "You deserve so much better than this bitterness. Family should build you up, not tear you down. We can't control her, but we can control how we rise above it." He nodded slowly. "You're right. I won't let her poison us anymore. What matters is us, our life, our love." "Exactly," I said, my heart racing. "And maybe this will make you smile. I hadn't planned to tell you yet, but it's about your beloved Applebee's." His brows furrowed. "What do you mean?" "My dad recently bought this entire block of buildings, including Applebee's." Russell blinked, stunned. "What? Janice, are you serious?" I nodded. "Completely. The papers were just finalized. I wanted to surprise you during a nice dinner inside, not after we were thrown out." For the first time all night, a flicker of hope lit his face. "That's incredible. Your dad, he really did that?" "Yes, and I know him. He won't stand for the way Doris treated us." On impulse, I pulled out my phone, dialed my father, and put him on speaker. After hearing everything, his voice rumbled with restrained fury. "I knew Doris disliked you, but this? To kick my daughter and son-in-law out of a restaurant she manages? That crosses every line. Don't worry. Give me 20 minutes, I'll handle this myself." Russell and I exchanged glances, both relieved and nervous. My father was a man of calm power, but when pushed, His authority was undeniable. 20 minutes later, headlights swept the street as my father's car pulled up. He stepped out in a tailored coat, his presence commanding. Without hesitation, we followed him back inside Applebee's. The restaurant went silent once more as he strode through the doors, his voice carrying with authority. "Doris, we need to talk." She emerged from behind the counter, irritation flashing in her eyes until she saw him. "What now? This is my establishment," she said, trying to sound firm, though her tone wavered. My father arched an eyebrow. "Your establishment? That's news to me, because as of last week, the owner of this block, including this very Applebee's, is me." Gasps rose from the diners. Doris's face drained of color. You own this?" "That's right," he said evenly, "and as the new owner, I've already received troubling complaints about your management. Care to explain why my daughter and her husband were humiliated and banned from dining here?" She stammered. I didn't know. "Knowing I owned it isn't the point," he cut in, his voice like steel. "You should treat every customer with fairness and dignity. Instead, you let your prejudice dictate your actions. That ends tonight." Russell stepped forward, his voice trembling but firm. "Mom, this is exactly what I've been trying to tell you. You've let your hatred blind you, and now you've humiliated yourself in front of everyone." Doris's lips quivered. "Please, let's discuss this privately." "There's nothing private about what you did," my father interrupted, his words echoing across the dining room. "You embarrassed them publicly, so you'll face the consequences publicly, effective immediately. You are relieved of your position as manager." The restaurant erupted in murmurs. Some diners clapped, others shook their heads in disbelief. Doris stood frozen, her pride shattered. Security was called. With her face pale and her eyes glistening with unshed tears, Doris was escorted out, the door shut behind her, and a wave of relief swept the room. Russell let out a shaky breath as the patrons broke into applause. For the first time, he didn't look broken, he looked free. I turned to my father with tears of gratitude. "Thank you, Dad. You don't know what this means to us." He placed a steady hand on my shoulder. "It's my duty, not just as your father, but as the man who believes no one has the right to treat my daughter and her husband like that. Now, go sit down and enjoy your meal. Tonight, it's on me." Russell and I embraced him before sliding into a booth. For the first time in months, I felt the heavy burden of Doris's cruelty lift off our shoulders. We weren't just eating at Applebee's, we were reclaiming it.